Sometimes, the most unforgettable moments in baseball aren't the home runs. They aren't the strikeouts. They aren't the walk-off hits or the diving catches or the perfectly placed curveballs that freeze a batter mid-swing. Sometimes, the moment that stops an entire stadium, the moment that gets replayed not because a producer chose it, but because people genuinely cannot stop watching it, is something much simpler. A man running. Running so hard, so completely, so without reservation, that his helmet flew off his head. Not slipped. Not tilted. Flew. And the crowd didn't laugh. The dugouts didn't smirk. Nobody treated it like a blooper or a stumble or an embarrassing miscalculation of speed. Instead, the stadium held its breath, because what they had just witnessed wasn't clumsiness. It was something much rarer. It was a man giving so much of himself in a single moment that his body outran the equipment designed to contain it. And here is the part that makes this story truly extraordinary, the context that changes everything. This was Shohei Ohtani. Scheduled to appear tomorrow as a two-way player for the first time in 4 appearances. A man carrying the weight of a pitcher's preparation and a hitter's responsibility simultaneously. A man who, by every conventional understanding of how baseball bodies work and how baseball minds are supposed to operate, should have been protecting himself. Instead, his helmet flew off. Today, we go inside that moment, what it revealed, why it matters, and what it tells us about a man that statistics alone will never fully explain. To understand why this moment hit so hard, you need to understand what it cost. Ohtani had not appeared as a two-way player in 4 consecutive outings. For a man whose identity, whose very existence in baseball, is built on the simultaneous pursuit of pitching excellence and hitting dominance, for appearances without the full expression of that identity is not a small thing. It is a quiet, grinding deprivation. A musician who can only play half the instrument. A painter forced to work in one color. For those 4 appearances, the world watched a partial version of Shohei Ohtani. Still exceptional. Still historic by any standard applied to any other player. But partial. And now, tomorrow, the full version was coming back. Two-way. Complete. Pitcher and hitter, on the same day, in the same uniform, on the same field. The anticipation had been building for days. His teammates knew it. The coaching staff knew it. The opposing team knew it. And Ohtani, in the quiet, controlled, methodical way he processes everything, he knew it too. This is the backdrop against which he stepped into the batter's box. This is the weight he was carrying when the moment came to run. And he didn't jog. He ran like the 4 appearances had been building pressure inside him, like everything he had held in reserve, every ounce of competitive fire he had kept carefully banked while waiting for this return, came pouring out through his legs in that single sprint. His helmet flew off. And everything made perfect sense. Let's be precise about this, because precision is important. In baseball, helmets don't fly off casually. They are designed to stay on. They fit. They are tested, adjusted, worn in over time until they sit exactly where they should sit on the head of the player wearing them. A helmet that flies off is not the result of poor equipment. It is not a sizing issue or a manufacturing defect. A helmet flies off when the force of a human body in full, unrestricted, maximum effort motion exceeds what the equipment was built to contain. In other words, Ohtani ran too hard for his helmet to keep up. Think about what that requires. Think about the explosive power, the ground-eating stride length, the complete and total commitment to that moment that would be necessary to generate that kind of speed. Not the calculated, energy-managed speed of a veteran protecting his body for a long season. Not the careful, controlled acceleration of a man who knows he is pitching tomorrow and has every professional reason to hold something back. The speed of a man who has decided, in that fraction of a second, that this moment deserves everything. There is a word in Japanese, zanshin, that describes a state of total mental presence and physical commitment even after an action is complete. A warrior's awareness that does not relax simply because the moment has passed. It is the opposite of going through the motions. It is the rejection of partial effort as a concept. Ohtani's sprint was Zanshin in a baseball uniform. His helmet didn't fly off because something went wrong. It flew off because everything went right. Here is a conversation that happens in every major league dugout, with every starting pitcher, in every city, on every team. Take care of yourself today. You're starting tomorrow. It is not a suggestion. It is not casual advice offered between friends. It is a directive, one born from decades of accumulated baseball wisdom about how pitching arms work, how bodies fatigue, and how the difference between a starter who lasts 7 innings and one who struggles through 4 is often made not on the mound but in the 24 hours before the first pitch. Starting pitchers manage themselves the day before a start. They limit exertion. They protect their arm, their legs, their energy. They are, in a very real sense, already beginning to pitch, just internally, quietly, in the careful preservation of everything they will need the next day. This is not laziness. This is professionalism. This is the accumulated intelligence of the sport. And Ohtani operates within this reality, with one enormous, unprecedented complication. He is also a hitter. Not a hitter in the loose, occasional, designated hitter who rarely runs sense. A genuine, elite, feared hitter who takes full at-bats, who competes at the plate with the same ferocious completeness that he brings to the mound. A hitter who cannot, who will not, give less than full effort at the plate simply because the pitcher inside him has preparations to protect. So when the moment came to run, Ohtani faced, in the space of a heartbeat, the tension that defines his entire existence in the sport. The pitcher said, "Protect yourself." The hitter said, "Run." His helmet flew off. We know which voice won. There is something that happens to elite athletes after a period of absence from full expression. It is not quite frustration. It is not quite hunger, though hunger is part of it. It is something closer to accumulation, the quiet building of everything that couldn't be released, everything that was held back or held in or managed carefully while waiting for the right moment to let it go. For appearances without being a full two-way player is not a long time by most measures. But for Ohtani, it represents 4 opportunities where the complete version of himself was unavailable. 4 games where the balance, that extraordinary, unprecedented, historically unique balance between pitcher and hitter, was disrupted. Athletes who have played alongside him describe a man who is, in many ways, at rest when he is doing both things simultaneously. As if the two-way role is not a burden he carries but a natural state he inhabits, and its absence creates a subtle but real dissonance that only resolves when both sides return. Tomorrow, both sides were returning. And that knowledge, that tomorrow, the full version comes back, was running in Ohtani's chest when he sprinted. It was in his legs when the acceleration began. It was in the moment his helmet left his head and the crowd realized they were watching something that couldn't be coached or scripted or manufactured through preparation alone. Pure competitive life force, expressed at full speed. This is what absence does to a competitor of that caliber. It doesn't diminish. It concentrates. And when the concentration finally releases, when the moment finally arrives that deserves the full weight of everything stored up, it looks like a man sprinting with his helmet flying off the day before he is scheduled to pitch. There is an uncomfortable question that this moment forces, not just for fans watching, but for every professional baseball player who saw it or heard about it later. What is your version of the flying helmet? Not the literal object, but the moment where your own commitment exceeds what is comfortable or expected or conventionally required. The moment where you give so much that something, some carefully maintained structure of self-protection and energy conservation and professional management, simply cannot keep pace with your effort and falls away. Most players never have that moment. Not because they lack talent. Not because they lack desire. But because the protective mechanisms are never tested at that level. Because some part of the competitive calculation, the one that runs quietly in the background of every professional athlete's mind, intervenes before full commitment is reached and whispers, "This is enough." Ohtani's competitive calculation doesn't have that mechanism. Or if it does, it has never once, in any game witnessed by anyone who knows him, activated it at the wrong moment. His teammates have noted it. People who have spent time around him in practice, in preparation, in the quiet moments between public performances have all described the same thing in different words: a man for whom the concept of enough, in the sense of a ceiling, a stopping point, a moment where it's acceptable to give less, simply does not exist. The helmet flying off was just the most visible, most dramatic, most cinematically perfect expression of something that is always true about Shohei Ohtani. He runs until the equipment can't keep up. Every time. Now let's sit with what's coming. Tomorrow, Ohtani steps onto the field as a two-way player for the first time in 4 appearances. The full version. Pitcher and hitter, complete and unreserved, operating simultaneously at the highest level of professional baseball. And here is what we now know, what the sprint with the flying helmet confirmed, if there was ever any doubt. He is ready. Not ready in the sense of arm health and physical preparation, though those matter and those are handled with the same meticulous care that governs every other aspect of his performance. Ready in a deeper, more competitive sense. Ready in the sense that the fire has been building and the focus has been sharpening and the full expression of everything he is as a baseball player has been waiting, patient and pressurized, for exactly this moment. For appearances of restraint. For appearances of the partial version. And yesterday, running at full speed with his helmet flying off the day before his two-way return, he gave the clearest possible signal of what tomorrow will look like. There will be no easing in. No cautious re-entry. No managed, measured, careful reintroduction of the two-way standard. There will simply be Ohtani, complete, total, everything, doing what he does when both halves of himself are finally allowed to exist in the same game at the same time. His helmet already told us. The rest of the sport better be ready to keep up. The final score will be recorded. The statistics will be compiled. The analysts will process the data and the journalists will write their summaries and the highlights will be edited and uploaded and viewed and shared. And somewhere in that process, someone will include the moment Ohtani's helmet flew off. And every person who sees it will understand, immediately, viscerally, without needing any of the context or analysis or careful explanation, exactly what they are looking at. A man who gives everything. Not sometimes. Not in the moments that matter most. Not in the at-bats where the game is on the line or the pitches where the count demands it. Always. The helmet didn't fly off because of a single moment's passion. It flew off because it was simply the latest, most visible evidence of a standard that never relaxes, a competitive identity so total, so deeply wired into everything Ohtani does, that even a run between bases the day before a pitching start becomes an act of complete, unreserved commitment. Tomorrow, he pitches. Tomorrow, he hits. And today, in a sprint that lasted 4 seconds and sent a helmet tumbling across the base path, he reminded every person watching exactly why both halves of him, together, are the most extraordinary thing baseball has ever produced. The helmet flew off. Baseball stood still. And Shohei Ohtani never even broke stride.